Right now at 7:05, taking a live look outside of the nation's capital, where President Carter has been lying in state for the last 2 days inside the Capitol Rotunda that just wrapped up about 5 minutes ago. And of course, we will be following the national funeral service that is taking place at the Washington National Cathedral a little bit later on this morning. Today is a national day of mourning as the world says its final farewell to the late President Jimmy Carter. And of course, we are continuing to cover this all throughout the day here on The News in our digital newscast. This morning, we are preparing you for the coverage ahead. We know that the casket will be now transferred to the Washington National Cathedral later this morning. They've got a service and ceremony happening right outside the Capitol building beginning at 9 o'clock this morning. They will then take him to the National Cathedral for a service that starts at 10. Ultimately, the day will end in Plains, Georgia. That's where my co-anchor Madeline Hunt joins me now, where this will end with a private family funeral, but it's a chance for the world to say goodbye to President Jimmy Carter, both in the nation's capital and where his journey started in his hometown of Plains.
Yeah, that goodbye already beginning here in Plains. I'm on a Highway 280 right now that runs right through the heart of President Jimmy Carter's hometown of Plains. And it's here where you'll find this monument dedicated to the former president right behind me. And below the monument, you can see the growing memorial that's been growing over the past week. People dropping off wreaths, bouquets, flags, bags of peanuts as a tribute to his humble beginnings as a peanut farmer, even Habitat for Humanity helmets with handwritten messages on them, one of them reading, "God bless you, Mr. President." So this just goes to show you the love and support that is growing here in his hometown of Plains. The community preparing to say its final goodbye to the president later today. Their neighbor and friend, many of them fondly called him Mr. Jimmy. And following the state funeral in Washington, D.C. this morning, the president and his family will fly back to Plains, Georgia for a private funeral service later this afternoon at his beloved church, Maranatha Baptist. It's at that church where President Carter famously taught Sunday school classes for decades. President Carter will then travel through the streets of Plains for his last time before being laid to rest later this evening next to his wife of 77 years, former First Lady Rosalynn Carter. The Carter's plot is said to be visible from the front porch of their home on the family's peanut farm, a site soon set to be added to the Jimmy Carter National Historic Park.
It sort of completes the story, if you will. You know, we have the boyhood farm where President Carter lived. We have a high school that sort of shaped his character and who he became. The campaign headquarters where he launched his national presidential ambitions, and now the opportunity to go and see the final resting place of President and Mrs. Carter.
President Carter's final trip back home completes 6 days of funeral proceedings, coming to an end in a full circle moment right here in Plains, a place where he was born, died, and will be buried later today. Reporting live in Plains this morning, I'm Madeline Hunt, WTOC News.
All right, thanks, Madeline. And our live coverage here on WTOC of the state funeral services for President Jimmy Carter will begin at 9 o'clock this morning. As I mentioned, that's when they will have a ceremony outside of the Capitol building as they begin to transport him to the National Cathedral. And then they will take him down to Plains, Georgia for the family funeral. Our coverage this afternoon will start at 3 p.m. You can watch all of this live right here on WTOC, on our streaming platforms, WTOC.com and WTOC Plus. And of course, we are covering